Township resident, and I've only newly become interested in this topic as it was on my radar generally, but I've only really honed in on the issues very recently. And I came to the last meeting not knowing anybody here, not having too strong of a position. I'll be candid, I was slightly against it, mostly on the grounds that I was recently, well, it's not that recent, 2012, 2013, shopping for homes in Plymouth Township, and I could definitively say that there was a horse track in the area where we were looking. I would look elsewhere. And I surveyed my neighbors just through conversation, and I can't find somebody who feels otherwise. There's a strong sentiment in my community in Plymouth Township that people generally don't want this. And I think if you were to have clairvoyance or to actually go ask and take a survey of our community, I think it'd be overwhelming. And I think you might already know that most people would not be in favor of a horse track coming into our community. Different people will have different reasons for that, but I think that would be overwhelming, and that's certainly confirmed by my conversations. So that's where I stand on it. I want to share with you just a short excerpt from a Detroit Free Press article that was given to me about it's titled, How Wayne County Lost Millions on Horse Track in Huron Township. Wayne County has cut its losses on a losing bet it placed more than a decade ago on a horse track in Huron Township. Wayne County officials quickly jumped on board. In early 2008, the county issued $19 million in bonds to build roads on the property and another $14 million to install sewer lines, which to me sounds very analogous to the improvements that are going to be required on 5 Mile to support the horse track in question. The project's critics immediately raised doubts about its viability, just as many critics have raised doubts on the viability of this track in Plymouth Township. Now, the former editor, Ray Pollock of Thoroughbred Times, told the Free Press at the time, I don't want to say that only a fool would do it, but only a gambler would start up a horse track today without some additional form of gambling. I quipped at the last meeting when I got up here and impromptu said, it sounds like this is a gamble. And so I chuckled as I read this, because indeed it does sound like a gamble to me. I looked into some other articles, and Mr. Heisey, I saw that you have made representations to the public that there is going to be no other form of gambling, gave assurances that this is an archaic form of gambling. So my question that I'd like you to answer is, what makes the proponents of this sitting here tonight on the board think that this would be any more successful than Huron or any of the long list of failed tracks across Michigan? And what will keep us, the taxpayers, from being stuck with a big bill that won't be subsidized by a successful, viable racetrack?
Thank you. What date?
I appreciate your answer.
What date of publication was that?
This is it appears to be a 2019.
Free Press?
Free Press, December 19,
Start that clock. My name is Dale Bernhardt. Before the meeting, I gave you all a handout, and that handout is going to mirror what I talked about this afternoon. Page 1 and 2, yes, that is correct, thank you. It says, gambling is addictive. 18-year-olds can gamble at this racetrack facility. Obviously, I'm against the racetrack. Gambling increases risk of suicide, depression, and criminal activity. Did we all know that? Have you read up on gambling? Mr. Heisey dismissed Northfield Downs gambling as primitive. Well, so is craps. But still gambling, and it takes your money and it gives to the rich. We all have probably kids and grandkids. Is this where we want our kids and grandkids to reside when they're 18 years old? And they come to you and say, I'm out of money. I've been gambling. We just gave our money, I believe, to the township for growth works, and we gave them some recognition. My thought is, with the gambling, if we do approve this, that place is going to be overwhelmed. If you pass the gambling facility, we will be responsible for ruined lives and families. We'll be culpable. Handout page 3 and 4 is the Eagle Report. The Eagle Report is an environmental report about the Arbor Hills landfill, which is Salem dump. Have any of you read anything about the landfill? You know, Eagle and the Michigan Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit against the landfill recently. Did you know that the landfill was cited for leaching? It's leaky outside of the landfill in the surrounding area. It's not contained in the landfill area, it's outside of it. Did you know the landfill is required to perform additional environmental investigation activities surrounding that release area? Parcel 11, which is the racetrack site, is contaminated from the dump, not just DeHoco. How do you clean that up? It's continuous. It's continuing leakage. Do you want your kids playing at that outdoor activity at this site? Why are we doing this investigation? My thought that the board should be doing this investigation. The next is newspaper clippings from the failed Pinnacle track by Metro Airport. Sir, I see I'm going to get a little personal here. Excuse me. Did you know Mr. I.C. represented Greene County on all matters impacting water, sewer for 2003-2009 during the Pinnacle construction? Did you know he was involved and had full knowledge of that project that cost Wayne County $35 million and lost the county millions? Did you know it was also built on a brownfield site? Did you know Huron Township became responsible for many of Pinnacle's financial liabilities for 30 years to end 2033? Did you know I discussed personally with Huron Township administrators to understand what they called a nightmare? Did you ever think to contact them yourselves? It shouldn't have been my job to do this. Did you know the horse racing insiders told Wayne County it couldn't survive without slots because it's a dying business? Did you know Huron Township only got 1 year of breakage fees or revenue sharing? Why did I have to investigate this?
I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up here over 3
I'll do it real quick, okay? And Mr. I say again, excuse me, I'm going to be a little personal here. You say that we always come up with the same subjects. How many subjects do you need us to come up with? Okay, we have 15 if you would like to hear those.
I'd ask you to wrap it up.
So you don't want to hear that?
We're not here to argue tonight. We have more information.
Well, I'm not here to argue either. I'm here to point facts out.
We've got other folks who would like to speak. Thanks. Okay.
My name is Margaret Bechtel, and I live on the corner of North Territorial and Beck in the Rolling Oaks section.
Could you speak up?
Bring the mic closer to you. Closer to you.
Hold it up, hold it up.
My name is Margaret Bechtel, and I live on the corner of North Territorial and Beck in the Rolling Oaks subdivision. I would like to speak on the horrendous cruelties that racehorses are subjected to. First of all, they are all heavily drugged, which in itself, in many cases, leads to catastrophic injuries and even death. And personally, with everybody cheating, I really don't see what kind of a sport this is. And it gets much worse. When horses used in harness racing stop being profitable, they are sent to slaughter. This means being shipped in a truck for a journey of over 24 hours at a time without being given food, water, or rest. They are often seriously injured or killed just in transit. And horses being skittish by nature makes them very difficult to pre-stun. So horses often endure repeated blows and sometimes remain conscious during dismemberment. There must be other alternatives that we as humans can entertain ourselves without inflicting this hideous, gruesome treatment on these gentle beings. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sue Cannavalo, and thank you very much for letting me speak tonight. I totally agree with Margaret. I love horses, and I think there's a lot of cruelty that we've seen in the last year with the Kentucky Derby and everything about how horses are treated. But anyway, my husband and I have concerns about the proposed racetrack on 5 Mile. Just out of curiosity, has any resident from Plymouth Township come to the trustees and requested a racetrack for Plymouth Township? Anybody? As a 38-year-old resident of this fabulous community, I know that we never in our wildest dreams thought that a racetrack would be considered near our home. We did not move here to go gambling. Plymouth Township and the city are not about gambling. We are a small community that provides great life, and that is why people choose to live here. When people go to a gambling facility, they are really hoping to make money. That is the intention. I feel that our trustees are gambling with our community's reputation for the possible money that they can bring in from the racetrack. I spoke with a retired law enforcement officer, and he mentioned that he was looking into retiring at the west end of Plymouth Township. He said that he may go looking to Ann Arbor, as he said that when a gambling facility opens up near a highway, which is very close to that road, crime will go way up, and the police department will be called, and the fire department will be called. That would take them away from the residents of the community that pay the taxes. The owner of Northville Downs may have made a windfall on his Northville property. It appears that he wants to make another windfall in our township. Why Plymouth? This leads me to the conclusion that I have a lot of questions that I would like answered. I am sure there are many residents that are not even aware that this is going into an area that has no updated roadway, is usually clogged up by garbage trucks from Canada going to our local landfill. I also heard Northville Lumber is moving to 5 Mile, and there may be a charter school being built on Ridge Road. We live in Ridgewood Hills, so I have no doubt that traffic will be severely impacted. We are open to information, and we request that the trustees have a meeting for residents to address the proposal and also answer questions that concern people. Let's not sweep this under the rug. Let's get this out in the open, because the people who live here and pay taxes deserve information. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Ms. Calamaro for 33 years of dedicated teaching, growth and development of students in the Plymouth Canton District, and for my daughter.
Don't worry, I won't take away any of your time.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so my name is Dr. Jonathan Finkel. I'm a resident of Plymouth Township. I'm here to talk about the proposed race course or track, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of things that I could mention that have been mentioned already. You know, the predatory nature of gambling in general, to take from those less fortunate and enrich those already enriched. But I want to focus on a different aspect that is concerning me most as a father. I'm a father of 2 young girls. They both go to school in the Plymouth Canton School District, particularly Bird Elementary, and we've loved the experience that they've had. Now, what does this have to do with the racetrack, you may ask? Well, what I would say is that I think no one can deny that a racetrack that will serve alcohol, starting at around 12 a.m., at least or 12 p.m., from what I've been able to send, will have individuals drinking. You'll have individuals drinking at a higher rate than prior to the presence of a racetrack. Not only that, you will have individuals who will be losing money. I don't think it's a very far stretch to say that when people get upset, one thing they do is drink. They drink to excess. And that then puts them in the possible problems of entering our motorways. So, 12 o'clock comes around 3:30, 4 o'clock, when kids are being released from schools, and now we have an increased level of intoxicated drivers driving on our roads. All that being said, given the proponents of people here who have no desire for this track to be made, the fact that you are supposed to be representing us, the people, why is this such a wonderful thing to do? I really have yet to see the true benefit. We're talking about an industry that has failed multiple times in multiple other places. You obviously have quite a few people that are not excited about it happening, and yet we're being told it's going to happen. I'm done.
Thank you.
All right.
My name is Dorcas Smith. I'm a 25-year resident of Plymouth Township. My first question to the board is, who decided that we should have a racetrack?
I'll be happy to answer some questions later on, but I don't want to.
Okay, then my question is, why didn't you ask us? Why wasn't a referendum put out? Why didn't you ask the community? Why do I have to keep coming up? Why do I have to keep coming up and giving an opinion, the same opinion? We don't want this racetrack. We really don't want it. We don't want to spend the money. We don't want the gambling. We don't want the failed activity that injures horses. Yet you keep telling us it's going to happen. Why are you trying to destroy our beautiful community? It's really a problem. We're not being heard. And everybody that I talk to, just as others have spoken, have said they don't want it. We the people don't want it. I don't hear a board listening to we the people. Please reconsider this decision. We don't want it.
Good evening, I'm Shirley Westfall, and I am a volunteer at the Humane Society of Huron Valley. Humane Society of Huron Valley services our community, take care of our cats, our dogs, our lost critters, any kind of problems we have, any animals that we find and that need care. They have input into this racetrack idea as well. In February, when we had a notice that there would be a public hearing with the Planning Commission, the Humane Society took a look at this issue and put out in the community and in Ann Arbor and the Washington area an action alert. And they let the people know that there was going to be a public hearing and that there was a proposal for the racetrack at 5 Mile and back. They not only include a racetrack and grandstand, but more. We can read between the lines. This will cost taxpayers upwards of $25 million to build. Now, these are words from Michigan Humane Society of Huron Valley. While there is no doubt that there are many horse lovers involved in racing, the unfortunate truth is that most of these highly social animals are confined to stalls for 23 hours a day, and racing leads to injury and death for many. Hundreds are killed on the track due to broken limbs, cardiac failure, or pulmonary hemorrhaging. While thousands who survive their injuries are sent to slaughter, they must go through grueling exportation processes because the horse meat for human consumption is illegal in the United States. Others live out their lives with permanent physical injuries and emotional scars. And the vast majority of foals, deemed unworthy, are killed before they even get on the racetrack. Do horses love to run? Of course they do. But racing is much different than running. From birth to death, racehorses experience cruelty just for monetary gain, status, and entertainment of humans. Widespread corruption and cruelty have caused a notable decline in horse racing over the last decade. The proposal leads us in the wrong direction. We are asking everyone in this community to help prevent this cruelty from coming to Plymouth Township. Thank you.
Hello. Excuse me. Hello, my name is Dennis Picard. I am a precinct delegate for Plymouth Township District 10. And I was at the last meeting, and I came here not so much to form an opinion. I could see both sides to it, and I didn't have a leaning. But because I wasn't sure, I came here to listen to public opinion. I'm sure everybody here votes, but we don't just vote at the ballot box. When we reject a product because of the political nature one way or the other, we're placing a vote. Okay? When you show up to a meeting, you are placing a vote. And I'm sorry, the vote is near unanimous in this room. When I was here last week, I can remember one person who came out in opposition, or in favor of the racetrack. Okay? Count the votes, please.
Thank you.
Hello. Horse racing is
What's your name?
cruel, pardon me,
What's your name?
Joyce Janicki. Horse racing is a cruel and unnatural life for a horse. Yes, horses love to run. I love to run. However, the difference is that I can run when I choose and at a pace that I'm comfortable with, whereas race horses don't have this luxury. The horse racing industry is concerned with winning and making money. Welfare of the horses is secondary. To make this point a little more clearly, I brought this with me. Here's a listing of the 242 racing thoroughbreds who have died so far this year while racing, in training or in their stalls. We saw 7 horses die during this year's Kentucky Derby, and per the U.S. Jockey Club, 7,602 thoroughbreds died on our nation's racetracks from 2009 to 2022. These numbers should shock anyone with any sense of decency and humaneness. What else do we need to tell? What else do we need to tell us something is very blatantly wrong with horse racing? We have been great at celebrating the winners. Well, it's time we're cognizant of and also mourn the hundreds who died. You may say harness racing doesn't cause the number of on-track breakdowns that thoroughbred racing experiences, but let's look at the life of a racing standardbred. Racing standardbreds generally endure a much longer racing career, during which they suffer injuries to muscles, bones, nerves, all causing pain and distress. Harness racehorses are whipped and develop harsh, visible welts, while the driver inflicting those sores rarely receives more than a slap on the wrist. This just happened at Northfield Downs on May 20th.
Then there's the very frequent bleeding in the lungs. While trotting quickly to keep up the pace, very often pressure builds and becomes so great in the horse's lungs that blood-carrying capillaries burst, causing the horse to bleed internally, and oftentimes blood comes right through the nose. Studies have found the causes of standard-bred racehorse deaths relate to age, sex, intensity of workload, and workload volume. In other words, their deaths are a culmination of many factors over their long lives serving the horse racing industry. And keep in mind that after racing ends, racing standardbreds are often made to pull buggies used for transportation. And then as somebody mentioned, would you like this list at all?
You can just leave that and come around.
It's pretty grisly. It lists the names of all the horses, the way they died, their injuries, their locations, state by state.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, anybody else? And Mr. Hogan.
My name is Ron Hogue, 40-year resident of Plymouth Township. So I was really surprised when I heard about the racetrack. The first public awareness that I could locate is mid-January, where Mr. Heisey was interviewed on a radio station. And I thought, gosh, how did this get this far, this quick?
Did you say radio station?
Mr.
I saw him on TV.
Mr. Stewart.
I know you were going to lose.
Mr. Stewart,
Yeah, that's why I get all kinds of emails saying, tell Heisey to let you talk.
So do I get that time back?
I'll
From that word
I'll give
interruption.
her
As much time as you want.
I'll give her a few extra seconds. Thanks.
I'm sure. As much time as you want.
No, John, it's not your meeting.
So I thought I'd look at the MITC agenda and minutes, because in October of last year, the Carlo brothers executed the purchase of the property, parcel 11, southwest corner, 5 Mile Ridge. And looking at the agenda, now let's keep in mind that MITC is a public body. A public body is governed in part by the Open Meetings Act. Open Meetings Act requires that minutes be produced within 8 business days following the meeting. Not approved minutes, minutes. And then approved minutes are to be published 5 working days, 5 business days after that. So unfortunately, you in the audience don't have this, but so let's go back to October of 2022. We see there was a meeting, and we see there are minutes of the meeting for October 26, 2022. Let's turn to those minutes, and they are the minutes from October 25th, 2021. They're the minutes from the meeting the prior year. I would think during the MITC meeting in October, when the Carlo brothers bought the property, everyone would have been excited about that. There would be much written about it, much talk, patting each other on the back. But nobody could see it because the minutes were not included. Now, one might say, gosh, that was an oversight, that was an accident. And if that's the case, those minutes should be immediately available today, not tomorrow, so they could be prepped tomorrow, or the day after. They should be available today. The other point I would make is there were 4 meetings following that meeting. no minutes or anything. So that's why the people of Plymouth Township, in part, are completely unaware of this issue. Mr. Heisey, turn this bus around.
Good evening. My name is Judy Hart, and I'm a Plymouth Township resident. I live in Ridgewood West.
Speak louder.
Sorry about that. Sorry for everybody in the video. I wanted to make sure, just as far as clarity goes, I as well spoke last week. I didn't plan on speaking last week, and I didn't know anybody here.
You have to address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're reading the board.
Okay. You feel left out.
I wanted to just be very.
Okay, just.
I wanted to be very clear that before last week, my husband and I did not know anyone in the group that opposed the racetrack. We have since spoken to our neighborhood, and I wanted to make sure that I communicated to the board that I spoke to a wide variety of community members in Ridgewood West. I spoke to neighbors who have older adult children who have already graduated. I spoke to neighbors who have 2, 3, and 4-year-old children who are going to be going to school. I spoke to neighbors who have children who are teenagers like myself, who, we are just recently allowed to go downtown to the city of Plymouth. And I've always felt what a great, I think I reiterate that I said last week, 13 years ago, we looked at, it was a safe community, it was very quiet, it was quaint, but it was close to downtown Plymouth, and we allow our 16 and our 13-year-old to go down there. As a parent, again this week, but also as an educator who has just recently come back to the career of teaching after 15 years of my kids growing up, I think about the parents who don't know that this racetrack is going to be going in with Ivywood, going in just down the street on 5 Mile Road. I spoke to a couple parents who were very surprised to see that there was going to be a racetrack that served alcohol right near a K through possibly 12 school. And like I said last week, I think this seems like with all due respect, it seems like a very tone-deaf decision for this time period. One of the big things that we have right now is our home value. Everything else is so incredibly, well, they're expensive, but it's one of the positives of this time period right now. We have our home values. And like I said last week, if I would have heard that there was a racetrack, I don't think that's going to be something that's listed by Mary and Mike Gladshon if they're showing people homes. It doesn't seem like a positive to try to attract young families to the district, to our community, which would therefore affect our home values. I think it would affect the safety of allowing our children to go to downtown Plymouth or to other areas of the community. And I as well think that it also is, the reason it also is tone deaf is having gone back to teaching and knowing what I know about our community with mental health right now after COVID, putting that type of gambling facility that serves alcohol doesn't seem like a thought. It doesn't seem like the thoughts have been worked through for our community. I think we have very vulnerable people right now after COVID, and I just want to thank you for hearing my thoughts.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mary Ann Adams from Ridgewood Hills. I have been here before to talk about parcel 11. I do live right near this proposed development, and Ridge Road has been my path to avoid the nightmare on Beck Road. I'm going to revisit parcel 11 and specifically the state of the brownfield property. because it has to be clearly understood by Plymouth Township residents and anyone else that may visit this development on what contamination existed and what remediation took place if needed. Since Northville Downs of Plymouth is intended to be a public venue with additional community benefits such as soccer fields, pickleball courts, and a walkway in order to meet the PUD, I am going to continue to emphasize how critical it is in making sure this property has been or will be evaluated for contamination and properly remediated if such contamination is present. And this is aside from the air quality issues and the leachate stemming from the landfill that we heard about earlier. Quick recap, Mr. Heisey. You said parcel 11 was contaminated and remediated. Then you deferred to the township's consultant, Harless, to clarify that parcel 11 was indeed not contaminated. From what I have become aware of, Michigan's Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy states that from the data they have, parcel 11 is indeed contaminated. Is this because they also received incorrect data from Harless? The same incorrect data that Harless included in their document entitled Parcel 13, Amendment Number 2, final dated April 26, 2023. If the state of Michigan is indeed basing their assessment of Parcel 11 on Harless data, why wouldn't Harless rectify this matter with the state as well instead of relying on public media to try and rectify the matter? So frankly, I don't trust any information that is currently available about Parcel 11. But because you want to bring in all kinds of people, children, and animals to this parcel, you need to get it right. Parcel 11 was not tested at the time of the baseline environment assessment back in 2018. But because you want to bring, in fact, it was only parcel 12 just north of the C&O Railroad that was tested. So I want to know, when is this testing going to be completed? Or when is a work plan for parcel 11 going to be submitted to Eagle for remedial investigation to occur? This is critical because of the community benefits package you are trying to pull together to fulfill the planned unit development. This community has no idea what you are trying to negotiate because you've been given sole power by the board to do this negotiation. If this community benefits package is in our best interest, which you think it is, you need to reveal the extent of this community benefits package. The community is upset about this development because of the lack of transparency with the public from the very get-go. I've also taken the time to review all the Plymouth Township brownfield agendas and minutes back to 2012 to the current time, and there is never one mention about Northville Downs purchasing this brownfield property.
I'm going to have to ask you just to wrap it up. I'll give you a few more seconds.
I'm done. Not even in 2022 when this property was sold by Hillside to the Carlo brothers. So get this one right on the contamination.
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Mine's real quick.
So my name is Eileen Coleman. I'm a lifetime resident of Plymouth, as you know, and I've spoken before. So I'm just going to reiterate a few things. First of all, there should have been
Microphone.
there should have been a referendum. This is ridiculous.
45 degrees, swallow the mic. I've had professional training.
Thank you, John.
So there should have been a referendum on this. This should have been put to the public. This is a character change for Plymouth Township. And the majority of the people, I would say 95%, do not want it. They don't want gambling. They don't want addiction. They see moral implications from this. This does not bring about human flourishing, it brings about addiction. Addiction, crime, alcoholism, poor use of land, poor jobs. There's no merit in this project, and you all know it. So I suggest now, in the time that you vote on this, that you take it to prayer. What is the moral decision here that you should be making for the people of Plymouth Township? Since you are people of faith, I can address you on faith.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Alice Rainville. I am a resident of Plymouth Township in Ridgewood Hills. I'm very concerned about the racetrack proposal. We've heard so many great arguments against it tonight. I want to reiterate what I said last meeting, that gambling is a public health problem. It leads to other public health problems, just mentioned alcoholism, crime, and mental health issues. These are so important for all of us and our families that live in this area. Mr. Heisey, you keep mentioning that you're in negotiations. The last meeting you mentioned that. So, again, I want to ask you and plead with you, it's not too late to stop the negotiations. Negotiations are back and forth, and we can pull out. So I don't know why you're not considering that as one of your options, because it is something you need to consider. So I urge you to stop the negotiations.
And I just want to say, I don't think the members of this board are listening to the citizens that voted you into office. We do not need that racetrack. We do not want that racetrack. And you need to really start listening. Now, when you guys were trying to push through the park issue and build the theater in Plymouth, you had several meetings where you were informing the public of how great this would be for the community. You have done absolutely nothing to inform us why you think this would be so great. Why is that? You know, crickets, that's what we get when there's something. You guys meet behind closed doors. It's under the radar. And you already know what you want to do when you present it to the public. And it's just not the way our government should be run. That's all I have to say.
Good evening, I'm Ray Lally. I'm the guy who lives across the street from Bill. Bill Carter, Mr. Carter. And when he came, during this last administration that we did a wholesale change on, for the most part, there's a few of you that are still here, they were doing the same thing to us. And we came aboard, and all of us got together, and Mr. Heisey was right. You know how hard that was to get him elected? We worked our butts off getting him elected on this. And we were all celebrating at Papa Romano's the night you guys all got put in, remember? That was a good night. This is not what we want. This is very disappointing in what you're doing on this bill. I retired from Jim Beam for 30 years as a Michigan State manager, and we really don't need a casino in here. You guys did a field trip and gone over to Northfield Downs and see what was there in the afternoon. Have you seen what's going on in there? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not what we want here. This is not what we put you guys in office for. But I think you should take a field trip and go over there and look at what's going on there in the afternoons over there. I mean, you're not at the Wynn, you're not at the Bellagio drinking champagne at the bar and at the pool. I mean, you know, if you want to do that, go downtown to the MGM, they got their own problems. That was their #1 account in the state. Greektown Casino was a huge liquor account. And let me tell you something, it's not pretty.
So I'm testing, am I doing it right?
Yes.
Thank you. Mary Pine, 45-year resident. The Plymouth Township website states people are priority. When people, residents, voters ask questions and express evidence-based opposition and plain emotion against the racetrack, they have been met appallingly with disrespect of lectures, threats, dust in the air arguments, a showy presentation, and having the media used to deliver partial truths on a community-changing issue. The unacceptable behavior of the supervisory board and planning commission could have been precluded if they had simply followed the April 2023 public participation plan on their own website. Items being violated: work collaboratively, engage in transparent communication, build trust and transparency, create a culture of open communication, accountability, and understanding. Follow a model of inform, consult, involve, collaborate, and most importantly, empower to place the final decision-making in the hands of the public. There are 2 pages of stakeholders. Nowhere are residents listed. I have been told that it was an oversight, a mistake made by not noticing something. Kurt Heisey is listed as a contributor. He does not notice the residents or view the residents as meaningful to a decision. Stakeholders is a gambling term and a business term. Kurt Heisey is gambling with the township community for the sake of a business which has to relocate. Why? We have no obligation to help this business. Kurt Heisey has an obligation to us. Ignoring citizens was evident on Wednesdays at 7:19 at the Planning Commission meeting. Apparently, the board wants recommendations on solar panels. Northville Down has stated the desire to apply for federal funds for solar panels. The resident wishes are ignored. Additionally, at the meeting's end, which is on YouTube, the Planning Commission discussed how to deal with citizen dissent and silence discussion as it was repetitive and apparently inconvenienced them. Just this June the 27th, Senate Bills 411 through 414 were introduced in the Michigan Senate's Natural Resources and Agriculture Committee, announcing the state of Michigan's interest in gaming and horses and how the funds acquired would be used to fund the equine industry. In them, FOIAs were not going to apply. We are not an agricultural community. We have no obligation to this committee. The state of Michigan is not Kentucky, which, by the way, is proposing laws to eliminate breakage fees for the hosting community. Due diligence has not been done. No racetrack in our community. We are not pawns. We do not want Plymouth Township to be synonymous with Northville Downs and gambling. The residents have been advising you to look out for your own reputations and that of our community by voting no on the racetrack. Change is inevitable, but you have the obligation to make responsible changes. Like it or not, there will be accountability for all of you later on. Change will be coming for you.
It's a tough act to follow. Good evening. My name is Marcy Becker, a long-term resident of Plymouth Township. This is my second time around. I moved here in '73 and again in 2020. I actually came from California to move back here to be with my children. I'm a homeowner, a taxpayer, and a voter. And I'm going to read my notes because I don't want to go off script. Thank you for giving us your attention this evening. For the other evenings, we were here presenting facts and voicing our opinions. The issue of building a racetrack within the walls of our community is just such a shock to about 500 or 600 folks who have signed our petition to stop it before it gets started. Some we've spoken to believe that it's a done deal, and others think it won't happen because you all have our best interests at heart. We all started asking why. Why would they do this to our community? So we inform and enlighten our community to the pitfalls of installing a racetrack in our backyards. We have a vast network on social media, emails, in-person meetings as last evening, and we talk every day to these folks with concern and influence. After all, we live here because, guess what? It's a wonderful life. And if you cast a yes vote and put in the track, you become a Potterville. That's unacceptable to any of us. Look at this group. They are looking at you and watching and listening to everything you do for us. We are a strong group, intelligent, informed, who vote. And this is Plymouth, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, I'm Bill Pine, I'm a 45-year resident. The reason I wanted to talk to you about, what I'm going to talk about is that effective organizations have a framework for decision making. This conversation started 6 months ago. 6 months ago, 90%, maybe more, of the people in Plymouth Township didn't know about this. Now, there are massive numbers of people who know about it, and almost everybody. It's very difficult to find anyone who supports us. So, your current approach right now tends to be secretive, arrogant, smacks of ready, fire, aim, which I have a real problem with, and ignores the residents. The board must acknowledge your primary duty as public servants, not politicians. Determining direction for Plymouth Township needs to be based on identifying problems, priorities, and choices before you push for solutions, ready, fire, aim. Some of the thoughts on process to put first things first, and I'm giving this to you constructively, is that you need to identify all the key underlying processes for the township: public safety, municipal services, efficient operations, property values, taxes. There's much of it like I haven't thought about. You need to establish key metrics for those underlying processes to maintain the community ambience and character. You need to identify key tools for addressing these underlying processes and related metrics. 5-year master plan, that's great. Benchmarks from other municipalities, zoning, stuff where you've got broad-based input. You need to prioritize initiatives for township focus. I don't have a clue as to what your guys' focus is, to be perfectly honest. You need to communicate. You need to identify alternatives for pursuit of those initiatives. You need to respectfully obtain broad-based resident feedback before any decisions. That's why these guys are here. They're trying to be responsible township residents. You need to communicate the process widely to township residents. I should have been able to go out and have 90% of the people say, "Oh, I don't want to know about it." You know, that's not cool. And then, and only then, should you acknowledge and act on that feedback. And we've been doing this for 6 months, and we haven't made any progress, other than to have a much larger group of people come and say, "Hey guys, what's going on?" So what's going on? And then you need to honor whatever process you come up with in serving the residents of Plymouth Township. Failure to act mindfully frequently results in working on the wrong problems for the wrong people. These are the right people. And should not, and ultimately will not, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, be tolerated by the township residents. I mean, there's a lot of people who know about this now, and it's very difficult to find anyone who thinks it's a good idea. You guys don't have one constituent. You don't have a sense. You don't have a few constituents. You have 28,000 constituents, and they're increasingly aware of what you're doing. And you need to think about it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item F1. This is the text amendment.
One more. Sorry. Didn't know if someone else. My name is Guy Guzmandi. You sign your name? And here's what, there's a theme here that we have people who've come to Plymouth. I've come from Plymouth, from another town. Why? It's the community, it's the people. But here's what you all are missing. If I could have everyone's attention up there, please. Everyone's attention. Because, all right, this is what
Yes.
on.
Mr. Kermey, let's not attack our employees.
Let's the contract. Here's what we're missing. We've heard some terrific arguments about all that is wrong with the decision. What we don't see is that, if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be a gambling consortium racetrack amongst what? Playgrounds in their 2 elementary schools there, right in proximity. We have, Michigan now currently has the dubious distinction, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, all right? We are ranked number 10 in the state for human trafficking, number 10.
That's Plymouth?
This, Michigan.
Oh, Michigan.
Michigan. Now, prior to 2019, it was Laurel Park that was normally considered a high-interest area simply because it was close proximity to an expressway. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to drop a gambling consortium between these areas. We have over 340,000 abductees who are then trafficked. If you look at the numbers, all right, 200,000 of those, 200,000 of them are from the age of 11 to 18. 8% of the abducted people are females of that age. 200,000 of those. 178,000 are males in that age group. Now, you're going to put a gambling, you're going to put horse racing in proximity, and all the drinking and all the issues. And the doctor made a very good point of who's going to be drinking and driving around there. But more importantly, you look at the abducted children that are being trafficked through Michigan. Michigan was number 1 prior to COVID. Number 1. We dropped a couple of notches. So now we want to give these people, whatever you want to call them, demographic, social graphic structures that they are, and give them the opportunity to grab our children. We came here, my kids are older. These people here and some of the younger people have young children. I want you to think about that. Look in your soul. Whatever your moral compass is right now, you better figure it out, because whatever you're making, whatever God you believe in or don't believe in, at the end of the day, if you have one child that is missing after this debacle, it will be on your heads. If these numbers are half truth, and correct me if I'm wrong, these numbers are increasing. If you haven't seen the Sound of Freedom, you need to go see it. Thank you.
My name is Ann Kozol, and I am a 23-year resident of Ridgewood Hills in Plymouth Township. And after listening to everybody, many well-researched points have been brought to the board's attention tonight and over the last several months. The number of concerns, when you hear them all together at one time, make the racetrack a powerful and hard no. First, the project was snuck into our community as a PUD on land zoned by the MITC for high tech. No meeting minutes published by the MITC kept this project a secret. Fishback conducting the traffic study is a direct conflict of interest because they were hired by the racetrack. Traffic study data points are only from Northville in 2020 and MDOT 2017, but 0 direct data points from the Plymouth Township are included in the traffic study. It is a biased, outdated, inaccurate, irrelevant traffic study. Even Myers confirmed traffic problems in that area. Documented contamination of surrounding properties and leaching from the Arbor Hills landfill. history of improper manure removal at Northville Downs, and yet racetrack stalls will hold 90 horses. Discrepancies of contamination at parcel 11 by the Michigan Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy. Environmental due diligence is absolutely necessary before constituent families could safely use this land. The environmental problems will soon become legal and financial problems. Previously failed racetracks at Middlebelt, Hazel Park, Windsor, and especially Huron Township, where Wayne County lost $36 million when it failed within a year. Who will pay for this one when it fails? Infrastructure costs $25 million plus additional ongoing emergency services will be needed. No tax revenue for the township for 10 years. Over 100 annual police calls from Northville Downs. Breeding ground for human trafficking due to kids on property, proximity to borders and highways, and the influx of out-of-towners. Gambling, betting, and alcohol now introduced to our already vulnerable township children and families. Alcohol will be served from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. every weekday within 2 miles of 3 K through 8 schools during school pickup, recess, kids walking home, and the racetrack parking lot full of kids who just want to play soccer. All in contact with drivers potentially under the influence of alcohol purchased at this racetrack. Toss in animal cruelty, where over 2,000 horses are put down each year. It's not safe for animals or humans, and especially not our children. Your constituents have been bringing these issues to your attention for the last several months, and you have provided neither answers to our questions nor reliable data to support this project. Where is the transparency? In the land purchase? In the zoning switcheroo? Where is the due diligence? In the traffic study? In the contamination issues? Where is the fiscal responsibility? In the millions of dollars required for infrastructure and emergency services, as well as millions lost? Where is the critical thinking? Pick an issue. Where is your moral compass regarding multiple concerns relating to the safety of Plymouth Township children? Would a prudent steward of the community make an investment where there is a lack of transparency, conflict of interest, environmental safety, public and health issues, and multiple financial liabilities? No way. Using other people's money? Even less likely. If you're so confident that the community wants this project, let us vote on it and do your due diligence before you vote on it.
All right, can I move on to item F1? Text amendment to zoning ordinance